Maya's a wonderful wife, but she lacks the vision to stand beside me, Nathan Whitaker declared, his voice dripping with arrogance from the Gala's podium. The elite of Washington, D.C. gasped, eyes darting to Maya Jackson, the quiet force behind the Whitaker Foundation's education programs. Nathan, the charming philanthropist, expected the LED screen to flash their divorce announcement, cementing his triumph. Instead, it flared with secret footage, his voice plotting with Lauren Hayes, his ambitious mistress, to siphon funds. A spotlight snapped to Lauren, her face paling under the crowd's scorn. Maya, eyes glistening, played her role, the betrayed wife, hiding a storm of resolve. Share your thoughts, viewing time, and location in the comments, and subscribe for more. Maya Jackson's fingers trembled against the stem of her wine glass, the crystal catching the chandelier's gleam like a fractured promise. Her pulse thudded in her ears, drowning out the clink of silverware and the murmurs of Washington, D.C.'s elite. She sat at the edge of the gala, her navy silk dress clinging to her skin, a second layer of armor against the eyes that flicked toward her, curious, pitying, dismissive. She was Maya Jackson, the quiet wife of Nathan Whitaker, the woman who smiled softly and spoke less, the one they assumed had nothing to offer beyond her presence. Her chest tightened, not from their gazes, but from the weight of what she knew was coming. Nathan stood at the podium, his tailored suit sharp as a blade, his voice smooth as bourbon. Tonight, he said, we celebrate the Whitaker Foundation's mission to uplift the underserved. The crowd nodded, enthralled, their faces bathed in the glow of his charisma. Maya's lips twitched, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She knew the truth. Every program, every dollar raised for those children in Anacostia bore her fingerprints, not his. But Nathan wore her work like a crown, and she let him, believing love meant sacrifice. Her stomach churned. How many nights did I pour my soul into those proposals, while you took the applause? Her gaze drifted to Lauren Hayes, seated at the front table, her blonde hair catching the light like a beacon. Lauren's smirk was subtle, a curve of lips that whispered victory. Maya's fingers tightened around the glass, her knuckles straining. Lauren, the assistant who'd risen too quickly, who'd lingered too long in Nathan's office, whose whispers had turned to laughter behind closed doors. Maya had seen it all, emails, receipts, stolen moments, and tonight she'd turn their arrogance into ash. The crowd's applause snapped her back. Nathan's voice grew heavier, his eyes locking onto hers across the room. Her breath hitched, a cold prickle racing down her spine. It's time. She set the glass down, her hands steady now, though her heart pounded like a war drum. Nathan cleared his throat, his smile a polished mask. Before we continue, he said, I must share a personal matter. Maya has been a wonderful wife, but she lacks the vision to stand beside me in this work. I need freedom to move forward. I'm announcing our divorce. The room gasped, a collective intake of breath that sucked the air from Maya's lungs. Cameras flashed, their lenses hungry for her reaction. She let her shoulders slump, her eyes glisten with unshed tears, her lips part in a silent gasp. Let them see the broken wife. Her hands shook visibly, a performance honed in front of her mirror for weeks. Nathan's gaze softened, a flicker of triumph, believing he'd won. Lauren's smirk widened, her fingers brushing her necklace as if claiming a prize. You think you've broken me, Maya thought, her pulse steadying. But I've been breaking myself for years to build you. Whispers rippled through the crowd, a tide of pity and judgment. A woman at a nearby table leaned to her companion, murmuring, Poor thing, she never fit in. Maya's jaw clenched, her teeth grinding against the words she couldn't speak. Not yet. She remembered Anacostia, the cracked sidewalks, the nights her mother, Lena, stitched her dreams together with calloused hands. She left that world for Nathan, believing he saw her. But he'd only seen a tool, a face to parade for donors who loved diversity. Her fingers curled into her palms, nails biting skin. I gave you everything, Nathan, and you gave me lies. She glanced at the stage where Nathan stood, basking in the crowd's shock. His eyes met hers again, expectant, waiting for her to crumble. She let a single tear fall, tracing a slow path down her cheek, her face a mask of betrayal. Let him believe it. Her mind raced, counting the seconds. Trey, the boy from Anacostia, who owed her his future, was in the control booth. She'd given him the flash drive, her voice steady as she'd said, "Make it hurt." His nod had been fierce, a promise sealed in loyalty. 5, 4, 3. The lights dimmed, a hush falling over the room. Maya's heart leapt, but her face remained a portrait of grief. Nathan opened his mouth to continue, his voice a smug cadence, but the words never came. The massive LED screen behind him flickered, the Whitaker Foundation logo dissolving. Maya's breath caught, her body tensing like a coiled spring. The crowd leaned forward, their murmurs fading into silence. Nathan turned, his brow furrowing, sensing something amiss. Lauren's smirk faltered, her hand freezing on her necklace. Maya's lips twitched, the ghost of a smile. "You thought you could bury me, Nathan." Her eyes locked on the screen, her pulse a thunderous rhythm. "But I'm the one holding the shovel." The LED screen flared to life, its light slicing through the Gala's opulence, like a blade through silk. Maya Jackson's breath caught, her chest tight as the crowd's murmurs died. Nathan's voice, smug and unguarded, boomed from the speakers. "Maya won't ever suspect. She's too naive. Lauren, you're my future, and this foundation money will keep us in style." On screen, Nathan leaned close to Lauren, his hand grazing her wrist, her laugh a sharp conspiratorial trill. The room froze, every eye glued to the betrayal unfolding in high definition. Maya's fingers curled into her palms, nails biting skin, anchoring her to the moment. Her face, still wet with a single practiced tear, held the mask of a wounded wife. Eyes wide, lips trembling. Let them see the pain. But inside, her heart thundered with triumph, a wildfire roaring through her veins. She'd spent months collecting those emails, those receipts, that damning footage, each piece a shard of her shattered trust. "You thought you could erase me, Nathan." Her gaze flicked to Lauren, who sat rigid at the front table, her face drained of color, her fingers clutching her necklace like a lifeline. A spotlight snapped on, its beam pinning Lauren like a moth to a board. She flinched, shielding her eyes, her chair scraping as she stumbled to her feet. "No," she gasped, barely audible, her voice cracking under the weight of 1,000 stares. The crowd's shock morphed into whispers, sharp and accusing, a tide of judgment crashing over her. Cameras flashed, capturing her panic, her blonde hair now a tangled halo under the harsh light. Maya's lips twitched, a fleeting smirk she buried beneath her trembling facade. "You thought you'd take my place, Lauren." Nathan spun toward the screen, his polished mask crumbling. "What is this?" he barked, his voice shrill, betraying the panic he couldn't hide. His hands fumbled at the podium, as if he could claw the footage away. The crowd's whispers grew louder, a chorus of disbelief and scorn. Maya rose, her movements slow, deliberate, each step a pulse in the room's tightening rhythm. Her silk dress rustled, the sound a faint echo of her racing heart. She felt the eyes on her, pity shifting to curiosity, judgment to anticipation. "They're waiting for me to break." She let her shoulders sag, her breath hitch, feeding their expectations. She reached the podium, her hand brushing Nathan's as she seized the microphone. His fingers recoiled, cold and clammy, his eyes wide with something close to fear. "You should be afraid." Maya turned to the crowd, her face a canvas of grief, eyes glistening, mouth quivering. But her grip on the mic was iron, her voice steady despite its tremble. "Nathan," she said, her words cutting through the silence like a knife, "I gave you my heart, my dreams, every sleepless night building this foundation." Her voice broke, raw and jagged, drawing gasps from the crowd. "You called me not enough? Lauren, you thought you could replace me with whispers in the dark?" She paused, letting the names hang heavy, her gaze locking on Lauren, who shrank under the spotlight's glare. The crowd's murmurs swelled, a wave of outrage. Maya's chest heaved, her breath shallow, but her eyes burned with something fierce, untamed. "I saw everything," she continued, her voice rising, each word a hammer strike. "And now the world sees you for what you are." Freedom rising, my foundation, will take back what you've destroyed. The room erupted, applause crashing like thunder, shaking the chandeliers. Nathan staggered back, his face ashen, his mouth opening and closing without sound. Lauren bolted from her seat, shoving through the crowd, her heels clicking frantically as reporters swarmed her. "Miss Hayes, is it true?" one shouted, his camera flashing. Maya stood tall, the mic still in her hand, her pulse a steady drumbeat of victory. "I built you, Nathan, and I'll bury you." But as she stepped off the stage, the applause faded in her ears, replaced by a hollow ache. Her fingers brushed her cheek, wiping away the tears she'd let fall. Was it worth it? The crowd parted for her, their cheers a distant roar, but her mind drifted to Anacostia, to her mother's kitchen, to the nights she'd traded for Nathan's promises. "I left her for you." Her throat tightened, guilt clawing at her chest. She'd won tonight, but at what cost? Trey's face flashed in her mind, his nod in the control booth a silent vow. "Make it hurt," she'd told him, and he had. The boy from Anacostia, whose future she'd fought for, had given her this moment. Her lips curved, a real smile breaking through. This isn't the end. She moved toward the exit, the crowd's cheers fading behind her, her steps quickening. Freedom rising is just the beginning. The doors loomed ahead, promising escape, but a reporter's voice cut through. "Mrs. Whitaker, what's next?" Maya paused, her hand on the handle, her heart pounding with a new fire. She didn't turn, didn't answer. They'll see soon enough. Maya Jackson's reflection stared back from the cracked mirror in her Anacostia office, her eyes hollow, rimmed with sleepless nights. Her fingers traced the edge of a worn desk, cluttered with papers and a faded photo of her mother Lena, smiling in a sunlit kitchen. The memory stung, sharp as a blade, Lena's calloused hands braiding her hair, whispering dreams over plates of cornbread. Maya's chest tightened, guilt a heavy stone in her gut. "I left you for him." She blinked hard, forcing the ache down, her breath shallow as she turned to the laptop glowing in the dim room. The screen burned with evidence. Emails from Nathan to Lauren, casual betrayals typed in cold black and white. "Maya's too soft for this game," one read. "She'll never see it coming." Her jaw clenched, teeth grinding until her temples throbbed. Each word was a wound, carving deeper than the last. She'd found the first email 6 months ago, late at night, Nathan's laptop left open like a confession. Then came the receipts, thousands siphoned from the Whitaker Foundation, funneled to offshore accounts. Her foundation, her dreams, her fingers curled, nails biting her palms, the pain grounding her. "You stole my work, my heart, and thought I'd stay silent." She clicked a video file, her pulse quickening. Nathan's voice, smug and low, filled the room. "Lauren, you're my future. The money's ours." Lauren's laugh, sharp and eager, followed, her hand brushing his in a grainy frame. Maya's stomach churned, bile rising, but her lips curved into a grim smile. "You gave me the weapon, Nathan." She'd copied everything, emails, receipts, this video, onto a flash drive, her fingers trembling not with fear, but with purpose. She'd spent months building this trap, each piece a brick in the wall she'd raised to bury him. A knock snapped her head up. Trey Carter stood in the doorway, his lanky frame filling the space, his eyes bright with a fire she recognized. Anacostia's hunger, the kind that clawed its way out of nothing. "You sure about this, Ms. Maya?" he asked, his voice low, steady. She nodded, sliding the flash drive across the desk. "Make it hurt," she said, her voice a quiet blade. Trey's lips twitched, a nod sealing their pact. He was her protege, a kid from the same street she'd walked, saved by her education programs when no one else believed in him. His fingers closed around the drive, his jaw set. "For you? Always." Maya leaned back, her heart pounding, not with doubt but with the weight of what she was about to do. She'd rehearsed her role, the grieving wife, eyes wet, shoulders slumped. She practiced now, letting her face crumple, her breath hitch, a tear tracing her cheek. They'll see what they expect. But inside she was a storm, her mind racing through every detail. Trey in the Gala's control booth, the video timed to Nathan's speech, the spotlight on Lauren. She'd chosen the exact moment to strike, when Nathan's arrogance peaked, when Lauren's smirk would be brightest. You'll both choke on your pride. Her thoughts drifted to Lauren, the assistant who'd climbed too fast, her blonde hair a constant taunt in meetings. Maya remembered her last week, Lauren's voice dripping with condescension. You're such a good wife, Maya. So supportive. The memory burned, her fingers twitching. Lauren, who thought she'd escaped her small-town poverty, who saw Nathan as her ticket to power. You thought I was nothing, Maya thought, her eyes narrowing. But I've been watching. She stood, pacing the small office, her heels clicking on the worn floor. Her reflection caught her eye again, and she paused, staring at the woman she'd become. Soft-spoken, overlooked, but not broken. I built the Whitaker Foundation, she thought, her breath steadying. Every program, every child we saved, that was me. Nathan had taken the applause, but she'd carried the weight. Her hands balled into fists, her resolve hardening like steel. I won't let you take my future too. Trey's voice broke her thoughts. Ms. Maya, when this hits, they'll tear him apart. She turned, meeting his gaze, seeing the boy who'd once been too shy to speak in her classes. Good, she said, her voice low, fierce. He deserves it. Trey grinned, a spark of pride in his eyes. You're gonna light up that stage, he said. Maya's lips curved, a real smile, fleeting but warm. For Anacostia, for Mama, for me. She glanced at the clock. 3 days until the gala. Her heart raced, a drumbeat of anticipation and dread. She'd walk into that ballroom, let Nathan think he'd won, let Lauren gloat. Then she'd shatter them. But what comes after? The question clawed at her, unbidden. The crowd would cheer, but would they see her, or just the scandal? Her fingers brushed the photo of her mother, guilt flaring anew. I left you to chase his dreams. Her throat tightened, her eyes stinging. I'll make it right, Mama. The flash drive sat on the desk, small but heavy with truth. Maya picked it up, her fingers steady now, her pulse a war cry. This is my beginning. Maya Jackson's heels clicked against the marble floor of the Willards' private lounge. The sound sharp, like the snap of a breaking chain. Her pulse thrummed, a steady war drum, as she slipped away from the gala's chaos. The crowd's applause still echoed in her ears, a roar that felt both like victory and a cage. Her fingers brushed the silk of her dress, now damp with sweat, clinging to her skin like a second lie. I did it, she thought, her breath hitching. But why does it feel like I'm still falling? She sank into a velvet chair, the room's dim light casting shadows across her face. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what she'd unleashed. The video, Nathan's smug voice, Lauren's panicked flight. It had all played out as she'd planned. Yet her chest ached, a hollow pain that wasn't just Nathan's betrayal. Mama, she thought, her throat tightening. I left you for this. Her fingers curled, nails biting into her palms, grounding her against the guilt that clawed at her heart. Outside, the chaos swelled. Nathan's voice, shrill and desperate, cut through the lounge's walls. It's a fake, he shouted to a swarm of reporters. That video was doctored. Maya's lips twitched, a bitter smile. Lie all you want, Nathan. She'd spent months collecting the truth. Emails, receipts, bank transfers, each one a shard of his deceit. The auditors were already circling, their pens sharper than any spotlight. Her phone buzzed, a message flashing. Freedom Rising has our support. Name your terms. It was from a donor, a black woman Maya had helped years ago through her programs. Her heart leapt, but the ache lingered. This is mine now. But at what cost? Across town, Lauren Hayes sat alone in a cheap hotel room, her blonde hair tangled, her mascara streaking her cheeks. Her hands shook as she scrolled through her phone. The headlines brutal. Whitaker scandal. Assistant implicated in fraud. She'd called a tabloid, her voice frantic, claiming the video was fake, but the words had crumbled under scrutiny. No one believed her. Not after Maya's evidence flooded the internet. Those damning receipts posted from an anonymous account Trey had set up. Lauren's chest heaved, her breath ragged. I clawed my way out of that dirt-poor town, she thought, her nails digging into her thighs. I was so close, but her smugness, That certainty she'd outshine Maya had blinded her. Now she was nothing but a headline, a cautionary tale. Maya stood pacing the lounge, her reflection flickering in a gilded mirror. She saw the girl from Anacostia, the one who dreamed big enough to leave, to build something greater. I built the Whitaker Foundation, she thought, her jaw clenching. Every program, every child we saved, that was me. Nathan had taken the spotlight, but she'd carried the weight, her nights spent hunched over proposals while he smiled for cameras. Her eyes stung, not with tears but with rage. You called me not enough. Her fingers brushed her cheek, wiping away the ghost of the tears she'd shed on stage. But I was everything. A knock jolted her. A waiter, hesitant, handed her a note. Meet me. We need to talk. Nathan. Her stomach twisted, a mix of disgust and curiosity. She crumpled the paper, her knuckles whitening. You don't get to beg now, but the thought of his face, pale, panicked, stripped of his charm, stirred something dark in her. Let him squirm. She slipped the note into her pocket, her resolve hardening. She'd face him later, on her terms, when the world had already turned against him. Her phone buzzed again, a news alert. Whitaker Foundation under investigation. She exhaled, a shaky breath, her shoulders easing for the first time that night. It's working. But the victory felt hollow, overshadowed by the weight of her past. She thought of her mother, Lena, her calloused hands stirring pots in their tiny kitchen, her voice soft but firm. You're my light, Maya. Maya's throat closed, her eyes burning. I left her for you, Nathan. The guilt was a knife, twisting deeper with every thought of Anacostia, of the life she'd abandoned for a man who'd never seen her. She stepped to the window, the city's lights blurring through her unshed tears. Freedom rising, she thought, her fingers tightening into fists. It's not just a name, it's a promise. She'd build something new, something true for the kids like Trey, for the community she'd left behind. But first she'd go home, to Lena, to the kitchen where she'd learned to dream. Her heart pounded, a mix of fear and hope. I'll make it right, Mama. The lounge door creaked open, a reporter's voice slipping through. Mrs. Whitaker, one question. Maya's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. Not Mrs. Whitaker, not anymore. She straightened, her breath steadying, her pulse a quiet fire. I'm Maya Jackson, and I'm just getting started. Maya Jackson's fingers hovered over the keyboard, the glow of her laptop casting shadows across the cramped office of Freedom Rising. Her pulse thudded, a restless rhythm that matched the hum of D.C. streets outside. The air smelled of stale coffee and ambition, the desk cluttered with proposals and a single photo of her mother, Lena, her smile a quiet rebuke. Maya's chest tightened, guilt a sharp blade twisting deeper with each breath. I'm here, Mama, building something new. But why does it feel like I'm still running from you? Her phone buzzed, a cascade of notifications. Maya Jackson, the face of justice, Whitaker scandal hero. The headlines were relentless, painting her as a saint, a warrior, a symbol. She leaned back, her chair creaking, her hands trembling against the armrests. They don't see me. They saw the woman who toppled Nathan Whitaker, not the girl from Anacostia who traded her roots for his lies. Her throat burned, her eyes flicking to Lena's photo. I left you for his world, and now they want me to be him. A knock broke her reverie. A courier handed her a letter, embossed with the seal of a prominent donor. We see you as the future, Ms. Jackson, it read. Freedom Rising could be a global brand. Let's meet. Her stomach churned, a mix of pride and dread. The donor, a black woman she'd helped through her programs years ago, had wired a 6-figure grant, but others followed, their calls laced with expectations. Polish your image, one said. Inspire the masses. Maya's jaw clenched, her teeth grinding. They want a mascot, not a mission. She'd fought for kids like those in Anacostia, not for billboards or talk shows. Her fingers curled, nails biting her palms, anchoring her to her truth. Across the city, Lauren Hayes sat hunched in a dimly lit apartment, her phone screen a cruel mirror of her fall. Whitaker assistant's lies exposed, the latest headline screamed. Her hands shook as she scrolled, Maya's face everywhere, calm, resolute, untouchable. Lauren's breath hitched, her mascara-stained fingers clutching a cheap wineglass. I was so close, she thought, her mind flashing to the small-town trailer park she'd clawed her way out of, the sneers of classmates echoing in her ears. She'd seen Nathan as her escape, his power a ladder to a new life. But her smugness, her taunts at Maya, such a good wife, had been her undoing. I underestimated you. A bitter laugh escaped her, the glass slipping from her hand, shattering on the floor. Maya's phone buzzed again, a text from Trey Carter. New evidence posted. Lauren's done. She exhaled, a shaky breath, her lips curving into a grim smile. Trey had worked fast, uploading more receipts to an anonymous account, each one a nail in Lauren's coffin. Good work, kid, she thought, her heart warming at his loyalty. Trey, the boy she'd pulled from Anacastia's shadows, was her anchor now, his tech skills a weapon she'd wielded to perfection. But the victory felt hollow, overshadowed by the donor's letter, by the photo of Lena. I'm not enough for them either, am I? She stood pacing the small office, her heels clicking against the linoleum, her reflection caught in a window. Tired eyes a face the world now knew but didn't understand. I built the Whitaker Foundation, she thought, her fists clenching. Every child we saved, every program, that was me. Nathan had stolen her light, but these donors wanted to mold it into something else, something shiny and false. Her breath quickened, her chest heaving. I won't be their puppet. But the pressure was a weight, pressing against her ribs, threatening to crack her resolve. Her phone rang, a donor's voice smooth and insistent. Ms. Jackson, we need you on a national stage. Think of the impact. Maya's fingers tightened around the phone, her knuckles whitening. My impact is here, she said, her voice low, sharp. For the kids who have nothing? She hung up, her heart pounding, a mix of defiance and fear. I can't become him. Her eyes landed on Lena's photo again, the guilt surging like a tide. I left you to chase his dreams, Mama. Her throat closed, her eyes stinging. I need you now. She grabbed her coat, her movements jerky, driven by a sudden need. Anacostia. Home. She'd face Lena, say the words she'd buried for years. Her fingers brushed the photo, a silent promise. I'll make it right. But as she reached the door, another notification flashed. Whitaker investigation deepens. Fraud charges loom. Her lips twitched, a flicker of triumph. You're falling, Nathan. Yet the thought of his crumpled note, meet me, we need to talk, stirred a dark curiosity. Not yet, she thought, her pulse a quiet fire. You'll face me when I'm ready. She stepped into the night, the city's lights blurring through her unshed tears. Freedom rising is mine, she thought, her breath steadying. But so is my past. The road to Anacostia stretched ahead, a path to redemption, or reckoning. Maya Jackson's shoes scuffed the cracked linoleum of her mother's Anacostia kitchen, the air thick with the scent of brewing coffee and ghosts of cornbread past. Her fingers grazed the worn table, its scratches mapping years of meals and dreams. Her pulse hammered, a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she stood in the doorway, facing Lena Jackson. Her mother's silhouette, framed by the stove's warm glow, was smaller than she remembered, shoulders stooped, hands calloused, eyes sharp but weary. Maya's throat tightened, guilt a lead weight in her chest. I left you for him, Mama. Lena turned, her gaze locking onto Maya's, a silent question in the lines of her face. Maya's breath hitched, her hands trembling at her sides. Say it! She stepped forward, the floor creaking, each step a confession. Mama, she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice. I'm sorry. The words spilled out, raw and jagged. I thought Nathan was my dream, my way to make things right for us. I left you behind, and I was wrong. Her eyes burned, tears spilling over, hot against her cheeks. She sank into a chair, her shoulders slumping, her body folding under the weight of years unspoken. Lena's hands stilled, a spoon clattering softly against a mug. Her lips parted, then pressed tight, her eyes glistening with something unspoken. She moved closer, her steps slow, deliberate, her hands hovering as if afraid to touch. Maya, she said, her voice low, steady, you were my light always. You went after something bigger, and I let you go. She knelt, her rough fingers cupping Maya's face, thumbs brushing away tears. I only ever wanted you to find yourself. Maya's chest heaved, a sob breaking free, her hands clutching Lena's wrists. I don't deserve this. The warmth of her mother's touch was a lifeline, pulling her from the abyss of guilt. She saw flashes of their past, Lena braiding her hair, humming gospel, teaching her to dream despite Anacastia's weight. I traded that for Nathan's lies. Her fingers tightened, nails biting into her palms, anchoring her to this moment. I thought I was building something, she choked out. But I lost you. I lost me. Lena shook her head, her eyes fierce now, cutting through Maya's fog. You didn't lose me, baby, and you're not lost. She pulled Maya into her arms, the embrace tight, unyielding, like the roots of a tree that wouldn't break. Maya buried her face in her mother's shoulder, the scent of lavender and coffee grounding her, her tears soaking Lena's blouse. I'm home. Her heart slowed, the frantic drumbeat easing, replaced by a quiet strength. This is where I start again. They sat, the kitchen silent save for the hum of the fridge, their hands clasped across the table. Maya's eyes traced the familiar. Lena's chipped mugs, the faded curtains, the life she'd left. I was so blind. Her phone buzzed, a distant intrusion, but she ignored it, her focus locked on her mother. I'm building something new, Mama, she said, her voice steadier now. Freedom rising, for kids like I was, like Trey. Lena's lips curved, a small, proud smile. Then you're already found, she said, her voice a warm anchor. But the buzz persisted, a text flashing. Investigation update, Whitaker facing charges. Maya's lips twitched, a flicker of triumph cutting through her warmth. You're falling, Nathan. She thought of his crumpled note from the Gala, his desperate plea to talk. Not yet. Her fingers brushed the table, steady now, her pulse a quiet fire. You don't get to pull me back. But the thought of facing him, of seeing his broken mask, stirred a dark curiosity. Soon. Lena squeezed her hand, pulling her back. You're stronger than you know, she said, her eyes searching Maya's. You always were. Maya nodded, her throat tight, her heart swelling with something new. Resolve, not just to fight, but to heal. For you, Mama. For me. She stood, her movements smoother, her shoulders squared. The kitchen felt smaller, but not confining. Safe, a foundation to rebuild on. Her phone buzzed again, Trey's name flashing. Event prep ready. You good? She smiled, a real one, thinking of the boy who'd hacked the Gala's screen, who believed in her when she'd doubted herself. I'm good, she typed back, her fingers steady. The community event loomed, a chance to show Freedom Rising's heart, and maybe face Nathan one last time. Her breath caught, a mix of dread and anticipation. He'll see who I am now. She hugged Lena again, the embrace a promise. I'll be back, she whispered, her voice firm. Lena nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Maya stepped toward the door, the night air cool against her skin, Anacastia's familiar hum calling her forward. I'm not running anymore. Maya Jackson stood on the makeshift stage in Anacastia's community park, her pulse a steady drum against her ribs. The air buzzed with laughter and chatter, children darting between booths, their voices a bright counterpoint to the weight in her chest. Her fingers brushed the edge of her blazer, grounding her, but her eyes scanned the crowd, restless, searching. He's coming. Nathan's crumpled note from the Gala burned in her memory. Meet me. We need to talk. Her jaw clenched, a flicker of rage sparking beneath her calm. You don't get to pull me back. The park pulsed with life, vendors hawking food, teens painting a mural, the scent of grilled corn mingling with hope. Maya's heart swelled, Freedom Rising's first event a testament to her vision. But the shadow of Nathan lingered, a cold prickle down her spine. She'd seen the headlines. Whitaker faces fraud charges. His empire was crumbling, yet he dared to show his face. Her breath hitched, her hands curling into fists. Let him try. Trey Carter stepped beside her, his lanky frame taut with excitement, his eyes bright with purpose. "Ready, Ms. Maya?" he asked, his voice low but eager, holding a tablet loaded with their app. She nodded, her lips curving into a fleeting smile. "You made this possible, kid." Trey, the boy she'd pulled from Anacastia's shadows, was now leading a project to connect kids to free education. Her chest warmed, pride cutting through her tension. But before she could speak, a ripple ran through the crowd, heads turning, whispers rising like a tide. Nathan Whitaker emerged, his once crisp suit rumpled, his face gaunt, eyes hollow. The crowd parted, their murmurs sharpening into scorn. "Knew he'd show," a man muttered. Maya's pulse quickened, her body tensing like a coiled spring. Nathan's gaze locked on hers, desperate, pleading, a shadow of the man who'd once owned every room. He climbed the stage, his steps unsteady, his voice cracking as he spoke. "Maya, I was wrong," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Please, give me a chance to fix this." The crowd erupted, boos crashing like waves. "Liar!" a woman shouted. "Thief!" another yelled, the words sharp, cutting. Maya's lips twitched, a bitter smile she didn't hide. "You thought I'd save you?" Her heart pounded, not with fear but with a cold, fierce clarity. She stepped forward, her voice low, steady, slicing through the noise. "Nathan, I don't need your apologies. I've built my life without you." Her eyes burned, holding his unyielding. "You're no one here." Nathan flinched, his hands trembling, reaching toward her. "Maya, please." The crowd's jeers drowned him, a chorus of "Get out!" and "Fraud!" He staggered back, his face crumpling, the last of his charm dissolving under their scorn. Maya turned away, her shoulders squared, her breath steady. "You're nothing now." The crowd's roars faded in her ears, replaced by a quiet triumph, but a hollow ache lingered. "I'm free. But am I whole?" Trey cleared his throat, stepping to the mic, his voice cutting through the tension. "This is for Ms. Maya," he said, his eyes meeting hers, bright with gratitude. "She gave me a shot when no one else did." He held up the tablet, the app's interface glowing. "This connects kids like me to free classes, mentors, a future." The crowd cheered, their anger shifting to hope, hands clapping, voices rising. Trey's gaze held Maya's, his voice softening. "Thank you." Her throat tightened, a tear threatening to spill. "You're my proof, Trey." The teens took the stage, demoing the app, their excitement infectious. Maya watched, her heart swelling, but her mind drifted to Lena, waiting in the crowd. "I'm doing this for you, Mama." The reconciliation in the kitchen had grounded her, given her the strength to stand here. But Nathan's broken figure, slinking away through the jeering crowd, stirred a flicker of pity, quickly snuffed by memory. "You called me not enough." Her fingers curled, nails biting her palms, anchoring her to her truth. She glanced at the mural, half finished, the words "We Rise" bold in vibrant colors. The teens' laughter, the crowd's warmth, the promise of freedom rising. It was hers, built from her pain. "This is my stage now." Her phone buzzed, a news alert. Whitaker indicted, her lips curved, a real smile sharp and certain. "You're gone, Nathan." The sun dipped low, casting gold across the park. Maya's breath steadied, her heart lighter, but a question lingered, soft as a whisper. "Is this enough?" She pushed it down, her eyes finding Lena's in the crowd, her mother's proud nod a silent answer. "Not yet," she thought, her pulse a quiet fire. "But I'm close." Maya Jackson stood at the edge of the Anacostia Park, her breath catching as the sun dipped low, painting the crowd in hues of amber and hope. Her pulse thrummed, a quiet rhythm, no longer a war drum but a steady heartbeat of home. Her fingers brushed the edge of her blazer, grounding her as children's laughter and the hum of voices filled the air. The community event pulsed with life, teens at booths, families clapping, the scent of grilled corn weaving through the breeze. Yet her eyes lingered on the mural, now complete, its bold letters proclaiming "We Rise" in vibrant swirls, a nod to the civil rights art that had shaped her youth. Her chest swelled, pride mingling with a fragile peace. "This is mine." Lena Jackson stood beside her, her calloused hand warm in Maya's, her presence a tether to the past. Maya's throat tightened, the memory of their kitchen embrace still raw. Lena's words, "You're my light," echoing in her heart. "I came back, Mama." Her gaze flicked to Trey Carter, who stood with a group of teens, their faces lit by the glow of his tablet, demoing the app that connected kids to free classes, mentors, futures. Trey's eyes met hers, a nod of gratitude, his voice still ringing in her mind. "You gave me a shot." Her lips curved, a real smile, soft but fierce. "You're my proof, kid." The crowd gathered closer, their chatter fading as a group of teens stepped forward, voices rising in a gospel hymn, simple but soul deep. "Rise up, keep on climbing." The melody wrapped around Maya, pulling her back to Sundays in Anacostia. Lena's humming filling their tiny kitchen. Her eyes stung, not with guilt now, but with something lighter. Redemption. "I'm home." Her fingers tightened around Lena's, her pulse steady, her heart full. The mural's colors danced in the fading light, each stroke a story of struggle and triumph, not just hers but theirs, all of Anacostia's. She thought of Nathan, his broken figure slinking away under the crowd's jeers, his plea, "Please, give me a chance." Now a faint echo, her jaw clenched, a flicker of anger stirring, but it passed like a shadow. "You're gone." The headlines had sealed his fate. Indicted, disgraced, forgotten. She'd buried him, not with hate, but with truth, her evidence unyielding. Yet the victory felt distant, overshadowed by the faces before her. Kids like she'd been, dreaming despite the odds. This is what matters. Her breath hitched, her chest loosening as if a weight had lifted. Trey took the mic, his voice clear, confident. "This app," he said, holding up the tablet, "it's for us, for every kid who thinks they don't have a chance." The crowd cheered, hands clapping, voices rising. He turned to Maya, his eyes bright. "Ms. Maya made this possible. She saw me when no one else did." Maya's throat closed, a tear slipping free. Not staged, but real. She nodded, her smile trembling. "You're carrying it forward, Trey." The teens beside him grinned, their demo showing a kid signing up for a coding class, a small spark of possibility. Lena squeezed her hand, her voice low. "You did this, baby." Maya's heart swelled, her eyes locking on her mother's, seeing pride, not judgment. "I'm enough." The thought was a quiet fire, burning away the last of her doubts. She'd fought for this. Freedom Rising, the mural, these kids. Not for headlines or donors, but for the girl she'd been, the one Lena had raised to dream. Her fingers brushed her cheek, wiping away the tear, her breath steady now, rooted. The gospel hymn faded, the crowd's applause rising like a wave. A teen unveiled the mural fully, "We Rise," gleaming under the park's lights, its colors a defiant promise. Maya's lips parted, her heart pounding with a truth she hadn't dared name. "I'm not just surviving." She'd toppled Nathan, rebuilt herself, come home to Lena. "I'm rising." Her eyes scanned the crowd, families, kids, Trey, Lena, each face a piece of her legacy. "This is enough." She stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. "Thank you," she said, her gaze sweeping the crowd. "This is our beginning." The applause roared, but she didn't need it. She turned to Lena, their hands still clasped, and saw her mother's smile, wide and unbroken. "I'm home." The park's lights flickered, the night settling in, but Maya stood tall, her pulse a quiet song of triumph. "We rise." Maya Jackson stood beneath Anacostia's stars, her heart a quiet flame, no longer flickering. The mural's "We Rise" glowed, a testament to her fight, her roots, her redemption. Lena's hand in hers was a promise kept, Trey's app a future born. Nathan's shadow was gone, his betrayal buried under her truth. She'd faced the spotlight, the pain, the guilt, and emerged whole. Freedom Rising wasn't just a name, it was her legacy, woven from Anacostia's dreams. Maya smiled, her breath steady, her soul anchored. "I'm enough." The night stretched on, and she rose, unbroken, unstoppable.